The AUR has been attacked. Over 1,600 different AUR packages have been hacked, unfortunately, and these are not new AUR packages that are doing something like typosquatting. These are existing AUR packages, which means if you use the AUR, be very, very careful updating your system, and later in the video I'll have methods on how to check if you've been pwned with this hack. But this is a big deal because the AUR has never seen anything like this before, and maybe just the idea of a user repository where anybody could upload a individual package to just one repository is just a bad idea. Now, yes, sorry, I was missing in action for 3 weeks. I was very, very busy. I started a new job at NetBird. I was buying a car. I was working on stillOS 10.2, but now we're going to be back to the regular scheduled programming, and I will be having 2 Patreon exclusive videos up this week. One of them is part 3 of the LTT reaction, and that will be available for free just on the Patreon website, and then the other one will be for Patreon subscribers. With all of that, let's first start with what the AUR is, just for those who don't know if you're living under a rock somehow. But if you're an Arch Linux user, the AUR is basically a repository where anybody before this hack, because now they disable account registration, but the idea was anybody could upload a package to the Arch user repository. And so with the AUR, there were over 100,000 different community maintained packages here for things like proprietary apps like Visual Studio Code, Claude Code, Google Chrome, things like that. There's patch versions of official packages such as like GDK3 Classic or GDK3 Mushrooms instead of just regular GDK3. And there's projects straight from the Git repos, so you're getting the latest Edge dev version straight from the AUR, things like that. Basically, any package you can think of that you may possibly need, it's going to be on the Arch user repository. That said, this is not the first time the AUR has actually been attacked. So back in August of 2025, the AUR actually had a DDoS attack where actually it wasn't just the AUR, it was the full Arch Linux repositories too, at least the official ones. So basically hackers were targeting the AUR in the Arch repos with so much traffic that it just remained completely inaccessible, and you weren't able to update your system or install packages if you were running an Arch system during this time. That has since been patched for a while. And then also in July of 2025, there were fake packages for Firefox and some Firefox forks like LibreWolf and Zen Browser, and these forks did actually contain malware if you tried to install them. But these were not the official packages. These were packages that were typosquatted. So if you use the regular Zen browser package, you'd be fine. But if you installed zen-browser-patch-bin instead of the regular Zen browser, then you would get hacked. However, this hack is different because hacks in the past, they were typosquatted, as I said, which means you had to install a new package onto your system to actually get hacked, or it was just a DDoS attack where you just couldn't access it. You weren't actually pwned, you just couldn't update and it was inconvenient. This hack is different because this is 1,600 existing packages that ended up getting compromised, and then if you were to update to the latest version of one of these existing packages, you were pwned. So according to this article from Step Security, it says 400 plus AUR packages were hijacked, and this is just an outdated article. If we look at this repo, which contains all the packages that's been hacked, it has been, as of 8:30 p.m. Pacific time of June 14th, it's 16,019 packages. So what they did is they basically took orphaned packages. So these are packages that just the maintainer of the package abandoned maintaining the package and no one was maintaining it. So they were able to take over these orphaned packages and basically inject a malicious dependency here. So there's a malicious dependency called atomic lock file, and there are some other variants of it too, but it was pulling in a malicious npm package, and these were silently installed if you were to update the AUR package. And so this malware was targeting high value assets on developer and CI tools. So it was trying to grab browser cookies and session tokens for single sign-on cloud consoles and software as a service apps, as well as SSH keys and known hosts, which basically tells it what servers you have access to. So it could compromise servers that you tried to connect to on your computer through SSH. It was taking GitHub, NPM, and other developer tokens, Slack, Discord, and Microsoft Teams sessions, as well as Docker and Podman credentials and cloud access keys. And so this article says Arch Linux and Arch-based distributions, so EndeavourOS, Manjaro. If you're using the AUR, you are affected. It also says self-hosted CI runners or build agents running Arch that install AUR packages in their bootstrap or job steps were affected. Although I will say a lot of these packages on here were random niche things and they were all sort of desktop correlated except for all these Python dependencies right here. But to be honest, I don't really know that many use cases of using the AUR on an Arch CI runner, because just the base Arch repos pretty much contain everything you would need to build something, unless you're maybe using it for Arch packaging and you need a dependency off the AUR. And then this article also says Windows developers running Arch under WSL2 and installing AUR packages inside that environment. Other distributions are not affected. This article notes some interesting things about this hack. Ownership hijacking beats typosquatting. That is true, because users can just silently update to this malware instead of needing to install a whole new package to actually receive this malware. And this is true. Build scripts are an execution environment, so package builds, which are used for AUR packages, as well as post install hooks, GitHub action stuff, Docker files, all things like that. These all run with powerful privileges, but are often reviewed casually, if at all. So this is a really good reminder to be actually reading your package build files, and I'll get to that later. So how did Arch Linux respond to this? Well, they just put out a little news announcement here saying that they're currently experiencing a high volume of malicious package adoptions and updates in the AUR. We are actively working to track down existing malicious commits and attempting to prevent additional malicious commits from being pushed. While this is happening and while we work to create a more permanent solution, users may see issues with creating new accounts, pushing package updates, adopting and creating new packages, and they continue to encourage all users of AUR packages to review all package build and install script changes when updating, especially during this time. And if we go to the AUR homepage right here, as you can see, account registration is currently disabled. So they're doing that to prevent all of these automated takeovers of orphan packages from newly created bot accounts. Now, as I said earlier, this is 1600 plus packages affected. This isn't just 400 like some of the older YouTube videos have said. Not the fault of those YouTubers, they just made the video too early. I have the advantage of being late. However, beyond that initial attack that everyone has already reported, today Phoronix reported a second wave of more malware, and rather than using a dependency, these are using obfuscated code right here, as you can see. I will say, if you read a package build file, this is pretty easy to pick up on. Like, if you see anything like this inside of a package build file when you're installing something, that is clearly malware. There's no reason for a package build to be having any obfuscated code like that at all. That is a clear red flag. It's actually almost better to do the dependency injection that they were doing earlier. So while this is technically more sophisticated, it's a lot easier to catch. Now, if you're running Arch, how do you check if you're pwned? Now, I am not running Arch Linux. I'm running my own Linux distro here, stillOS, which is based on Alma and uses an atomic file system. But luckily, I got a little Arch container profile right here. I think I have Yay on here. No, I don't. I don't have any AUR helper. Okay. Installing Yay. By the way, you notice how it's blue for the Arch container, and my system is for me, I have it set to hacker theme because I'm a hacker. No, I'm not. All right, I got one AUR package now, and that one AUR package is Yay. Anyways, I will be putting the commands to do this in the description here, but there's this GitHub repo called aur-malware-check, and if we just git clone it and then cd into it, bash aur_check-v2.sh, and then I'm gonna do --all, which will run all of the checks. Hey, I'm editing this video, just a little correction, run --full, not --all. I also want to point out, since I was talking about reading package builds, I did read this script and audit this script to make sure that this script isn't malware. And as you can see, my Arch container here is clean. So pretty easy check right here. Now on this GitHub repo, if we go to the package list.txt, as I mentioned earlier, you also just have a list of all the packages affected. If I were you though, if you're running Arch with the AUR, I would just run this script. Now, if you do get pwned, what I would do is change all your passwords, rotate your SSH keys as well as developer secrets and API keys, things like that. You can probably get rid of the malware by just looking for suspicious processes or system services and resolving it, but honestly, it's safer to just reinstall your Arch system. You never know where the malware can be hiding. With all of that, there are some preventative measures. So now this is going to be different depending on what AUR helper you're using, but always check the package build of an AUR package you're installing. So I'm gonna let's do libsoup, because that's just a dependency. It's probably going to be small, but if you use the -G flag inside of Yay, it just downloads the package build, and then I could do, actually not cat, I'll use a full text editor. We'll do nano libsoup package build, and now I can actually read what it's doing. So I can see all the dependencies it has and what it's going to install to build it. I can see the source of the package, the checksum, all of the commands it's running, and just do a quick review of what this actually does to make sure it's not going to be doing anything malicious. And I'm going to be honest with you, if you're saying this looks too complicated, I can't read this, then you probably shouldn't be using Arch Arch Linux. Alternatively, just when you can, use vetted package sources rather than the AUR. So as I mentioned earlier, anyone can upload anything to the AUR, whereas the standard Arch packages right here, or just standard distro repositories in general, these are all packages maintained and vetted by the team for Arch Linux or whatever distro you're running. And so as long as you can trust the developers of Arch Linux, which Arch is a very old distro, you likely can, Arch has a very good reputation, then you're not going to get malware installing any official Arch Linux package. Now, Arch's repositories are pretty small, so what if there's a missing package? Just use Flatpak. Like, come on, just use Flatpak. Yes, anybody can publish a Flatpak, but you can't just take over an orphaned package the same way you can with an AUR package. And the FlatHub team does review every single package that has been uploaded to FlatHub. And as far as I know, and I did just Google this to fact check it and I couldn't find anything, FlatHub has never had malware on it, which is crazy because you can't even say that about the Snap Store. I have a whole video about alternatives to the AUR that I'll put on my end screen. Now, the last thing I want to bring up in this video is just a discussion question here. Is the AUR a bad idea? Because the problem with the AUR, as I said earlier, account registration is currently disabled right now. I don't know if they're bringing that back, but just the biggest problem is anybody can upload a package to the AUR. So instead of just verifying the reputation of the AUR itself, you have to verify the reputation of every individual maintainer. Whereas with the official Arch repos or a distro repository or FlatHub, they already have a good reputation. You know that the maintainers of those repositories aren't going to put malware on your system, and as long as you trust the developers of just the core team of the Linux distro, you're good. And then another thing is, if you can just take over an orphan package like that, this might just be a problem forever. It just might become a game of whack-a-mole. Whereas with something like Fedora Copar or PPAs, for example, you aren't able to just take over an existing package. Even if someone's like full account got hacked, it's limited to just their one repo that contains whatever package is. This is just a random package I found on Copar. Yeah, you do still have to trust the maintainer to know that the package is good, but you aren't able to just wreak havoc by having a bunch of bots or something make a bunch of new accounts and take over orphan packages. For a repo to get hacked, if an account gets hacked, it's limited to only those repositories. And I use Copar for stillOS. I can say all the stillOS packages are going to be safe unless my account specifically gets hacked, or maybe Copar as a whole gets hacked, but you can say that about the whole Arch repo getting hacked too. Now, I personally don't think the AUR is a bad idea as a whole. It's a good place to just have a place where people can publish packages that they make, especially for things like patch packages and just random one-off stuff. But at the same time, a lot of Arch users are just willy-nilly installing a bunch of random AUR packages, and that is a horrible idea. You should be vetting the AUR packages the same way a Windows user would be vetting a .exe that they randomly found on the internet. With all of that, I'd love to know your opinions on what's going on around this. Thank you all for watching. If you want to support a broke college student, you can on Patreon right here. You can subscribe right here, and I'm gonna have my video about AUR alternatives right here. See you guys in the next video.